Lake Chapala, Mexico, 3 hours from the US by plane, 40 plus years running as the largest expat retirement community south of the border. Rent for a real 2 bedroom, not a shoebox. Often a third of what the same square footage costs in Arizona. That's the pitch you've heard 100 times. Here's what you haven't heard of as often. As of January 1st this year, Mexico doubled every government fee tied to your residency card, and the income threshold to qualify for that card has climbed enough in the past couple of years that a chunk of retirees living comfortably on Social Security alone can no longer clear the bar on paper, even though the actual cost of living is lower than what it is back home. That's the gap this video lives in. Not should you retire in Mexico? Plenty of people already have, happily. The question is whether you can actually qualify, what it costs beyond the brochure number, and where people trip. Welcome to Eagle Flight, where your new life starts here. Mexico shows up in nearly every best places to retire list for reasons that has nothing to do with marketing. Proximity is a real one. Lake Chapala and IE sit so close to the US that some retirees fly home for a weekend without that becoming an ordeal. San Miguel de Allende has pulled in American retirees since the 1950s, long enough that it's not really an expat community anymore, so much as a town where two cultures have been quietly coexisting for 70 years. Mérida in the Yucatan has become the safety pick, consistently ranked among the lowest crime cities in the country. Puerto Vallarta and the Playa del Carmen skew younger and beachier, with all the tourist infrastructure that comes with it. Cost of living is the other half. A retiree in IE can genuinely live well on a few $1,000s a month. Housing, groceries, a cleaner twice a week, dinner out without checking the bill first. The math holds up. It's real. I'm not going to spend this video talking you out of Mexico. I'm going to spend it making sure you don't find out the hard way what the paperwork actually costs. Mexico gives you two real paths to residency, and which one you qualify for depends almost entirely on your income. Temporary resident visa. This is where most retirees start. Based on current figures, you'll need to show roughly 2,900 US dollars a month in income over the past 6 months. Or if you rather show savings instead of income, an average balance of around 74,000 US dollars over the past 12 months. The temporary card is valid for 1 year initially, and you can renew it for 1 to 3 more years at Mexico's National Immigration Institute's discretion. After 4 consecutive years of temporary status, you become eligible to apply for permanent residency without ever even having to leave the country to do it. Permanent resident visa. Higher bar, better benefits. Plan on demonstrating something closer to 4,800 US dollars a month in income. In exchange, you get residency that you never need renewing, the ability to enter and leave freely, access to public health care through the IMSS, the right to open a Mexican bank accounts without the runaround, and once you hit 60, the INAPAM senior discounts that show up in more places than you expect, from bus fares to pharmacy purchases. Here's the detail that catches people every time. These dollar figures aren't set by Mexico's immigration law directly. They calculated of something called the UMA, a daily peso value the Mexican government updates every year, and then converted to dollars at whatever the exchange rate happens to be that week. Two different consulates can quote you two different dollar amounts for the exact same visa. And some consulates still calculate of minimum wage instead of UMA, which pushes the number even higher. Whatever figures you read in a blog post, including this one, verify it directly with a specific consulate handling your application before you build your budget around it. And the fee news: Mexico's Congress passed a law in November 2025 that doubled every government processing fee attached to residency cards, effective January 1st, 2026. If you are pricing this move of numbers from even 18 months ago, throw those numbers out and get current ones. One more paperwork wrinkle, specifically for anyone dreaming of a place near the beach. Mexico's constitution restricts direct foreign ownership of a property within 50 kilometers of the coastline or 100 kilometers of an international border, which covers almost every dream retirement spot you pinned on a map. Foreigners buy through a Fideicomiso, a bank trust that owns the property on your behalf while you retain full use, rental, and inheritance rights. It's normal, a well established structure. Thousands of Americans use one, but it involves a Mexican bank as a trustee, an annual trust fee, and a lawyer who actually knows what they are doing. Skip the vetting on the lawyer, and this is exactly where things go wrong. More on that in a minute. Before we go ahead with the remaining content, if you're getting value and enjoying this video and want to stay updated on the latest opportunities to living and traveling abroad and learn about the exciting options to retiring or migration, click the subscribe button and turn on notifications. YouTube will ensure you get notified when we publish the next insightful content. Now back to the video. Healthcare is the one budget line retirees consistently underestimate. Mexico gives you two real options, and the smart move is usually both. IMSS, the public system, is available to legal residents for a few $100 up to roughly 800 US dollars a year, depending on your age. Genuinely remarkable value on paper. But IMSS will refuse to cover certain conditions outright. Chronic degenerative diseases like diabetes or advanced kidney disease, mental illness, and HIV, particularly if they are pre existing. It's not a full safety net, it's a cheap partial one. Private insurance fills the gap, and it's genuinely affordable if you buy it early. A comprehensive plan for someone in their 60s typically runs between 1,500 to 3,500 US dollars a year. The problem is time. Premiums climb steeply past 70, and pre existing conditions start narrowing your options fast. The retirees who get this right buy coverage in the early 60s and keep it continuous. The ones who get it wrong wait until they need it, discover the exclusions, and end up flying back to the US for procedures Medicare won't cover anyway, because Medicare, with very limited exceptions, does not follow you outside the United States. The move most experienced expats land on is a hybrid: IMSS as the cheap backstop, private major medical from anything serious, and a clear eyed acceptance that this is a real line item, not a rounding error you'll figure out later. Taxes are the other line people get wrong. Spend more than 183 days a year in Mexico and you become a Mexican tax resident, especially if your center of vital interests, meaning where your primary home, income sources, and your family ties sit, is also in Mexico. Becoming a Mexican tax resident technically means owing Mexican tax on worldwide income. In practice, the US Mexico tax treaty and the foreign tax credit usually means you're not paying double tax on US source retirement income like your social security and a pension. But usually means is not the same as automatically means, and this is not a DIY tax return. If you're spending more than half the year in Mexico, budget for an accountant who works both sides of the border, not just one. And to be clear on something people assume incorrectly, moving to Mexico does not end your US tax filing obligations. You still file with the IRS every year, same as if you stayed in Ohio. Real estate fraud tops the list, and it's almost always the same story. A retiree falls for a property, skips independent legal review because the seller's notario seems trustworthy enough, and finds out later the fideicomiso wasn't set up correctly or the title had a lien nobody disclosed. Always hire your own lawyer, one you found, not one the seller recommended, before you sign anything involving property. Second, treating a travel insurance policy like health insurance. They are not the same product. Travel policies are built for short trips. They exclude residents, and if you're using one as your actual coverage past the first few months, you likely don't have real coverage at all. Third, underestimating how much the exchange rate matters to your monthly budget. A comfortable peso to dollar rate 2 years ago is not a guarantee for next year. And if your entire plan only works at today's exchange rate, build in a cushion because the rate is not fixed input, it's a variable one. Fourth, assuming a tourist visa and a residency visa are interchangeable. They are not, and overstaying a tourist permit while you figure out the residency thing is a good way to complicate an application you could have gotten right the first time. Fifth, and this one's softer but real, underestimating the language gap outside the big expat hubs. IEE and San Miguel de Allende run heavily bilingual, because of decades of American presence. Step outside these specific pockets, and you'll need enough Spanish to handle a pharmacy counter or a utility company on your own. Waiting for someone else to translate your whole life is not a sustainable plan. Buy private health insurance while you're still in your early 60s, even if IMSS looks cheap enough to skip it. The premium only gets more expensive from year, and the exclusions only get wider. Hire a Mexican immigration attorney for your visa application, not a Facebook group's recommended fixer. The fees just double. This is not the year to guess your paperwork and hope for the best. If real estate is anywhere in your plan, get your own lawyer before you get emotionally attached to a specific house. The Fideicomiso structure is fine. Skipping due diligence on it is not. Confirm your specific consulate's current income threshold in writing before you build a retirement budget around a number from a blog, including this one. UMA based figures move every year, and consulates don't all calculate the same way. And build a currency cushion into your monthly number. Not because the peso is about to crash, nobody knows that, but because a retirement budget with a zero margin for a 10% currency swing isn't a budget. It's a bet with your healthcare money riding on it. Mexico earns a spot on the best place to retire list honestly. The cost of living gap is real. The communities in Lake Chapala and San Miguel and Mérida are established enough to actually catch you if you land there without much Spanish. And the flight home is short enough that abroad doesn't have to mean cut off. But the fee doubling in January and the rising income thresholds are a real signal. This is a country that's getting more selective about who qualifies, not less. Get your paperwork right the first time, insure yourself before you need it, and the dream part takes care of itself. If you want the next video to focus on a different country, tell us in your comments. We'll build a video around that. If this was useful, a thumbs up takes 2 seconds and helps us reach more retirees and families like yourself who need to hear it. Until next time, spread your wings and fly.